I'll be quite honest and blunt. I don't think we're at the point for fully implementing an asset management plan. We're more in asset triage right now of what's in the worst condition and how can we get the funding to fix that. I definitely would like to get to the point where we actually can start planning, okay, this year we're going to take care of this one or that one, but honestly don't think we're there. I mean, we have our roads some of them are in pretty bad shape, and like I said, we're more in triage stage versus, reactive versus preventative. So I think, we've got to take care of that, and then we can start trying to tackle moving forward with, okay, let's plan on fixing this one this year or doing something like that. Like I said, that's my opinion. You guys are all entitled to your own, and you guys make the decisions. But Chuck, I don't know what you think about that as well.
Absolutely, I think that we need to get what we have under control, and it's only going to get more expensive. It's certainly not going to stop wearing out.
Well, we could all stop driving, I guess.
Everyone kind of already did that for almost a year. Everyone was home.
No, Carla just came in, but so we did put in for the local government road fund for these projects as well, to hopefully see if the state's going to give us some of the funds. And I believe that one's a 90-10, so the state would pitch in 90% of the cost, and we would have to pay 10. But we will not find out until September at the earliest.
And keep in mind, last year we applied for 8 projects and got funded for 1.
So, we might luck out and get one of them, but as we found out last time, it doesn't matter what we can put in our top priority, but when they pick it, they just say, okay, here's the project we're going to do.
The other thing that they're struggling with is that every project they've already funded is coming in way over bid. So some of that money they have from local government road fund may go to make good on some of the projects they awarded last year. When I talked to someone from NMDOT yesterday, they said every project they have came in at 2 times the engineer's estimate. That's how fast costs are rising. So projects they funded last year, they're having to make up the funding for this year just to try and get those projects funded. Costs for materials, costs for personnel, costs for subcontractors, everything is coming in at double the amount projected.
Ouch.
Yeah, it's a tough place out there right now. I don't know how long it will take to right itself, the economy, but it's not going to be this year.
Well, I don't know. I know that repairing these roads now will preserve them for longer into the future. If we postpone doing some of this work, that could adversely or completely ruin the roads, which would be much more costly in the future, particularly on Frost and Dinkle. I've looked at Quail Trail and I've looked at McCall. They're kind of iffy, but still, but Frost is falling apart, and Dinkle's beginning to as well in some spots. So I think some immediate attention on those roads. I don't think we've done Frost. I think the last time we did Frost was in 2007 or 8, something like that. I think we did major work in 2007, 8. We did I think we did a fog and seal on it. I can't remember when. 2011, 2010, 2011, something like that. But it's been quite a while.
I think the last major thing we did townwide preventatively was a couple years ago, we did all the crack seal.
Mm-hmm.
And once again, that's just a Band-Aid. Another road, I'm pretty sure you counselors still get, periodic emails about, Broken Arrow Trail.
Oh, yes.
I think there's more patch than chip seal left on that one, but, you know, Chuck and his group, you know, to their credit, they're out there as often as they can to try and take care of that one, but.
I'll give Chuck and the crew, kudos, because I think they're paving the road with shovels.
One pothole at a time.
One pothole at a time. So, you know, that's on the list. There's a few others. Some of the roads that we paved now almost 10 years ago are starting to show their age too. We're seeing cracks on the edges. We're seeing soft spots and various other things. You know, we're going to have to look at Walker, and we're going to have to look at Hill Ranch and what I can't remember his windmill, steeplechase, that whole area over there. So I think if we can find it in our budget to at least get the work on the roads done, that would be fantastic. I would also really like to see if we can get the road crews, because having more people on how many, 72 miles now? 72 miles of road? So we've got basically 72 miles of road and 4 guys doing the job. And I don't know if you want to do the math or not, but that means, you know, they spend X number of hours on each foot of road. It's a daunting task. Yes,
No, Mayor Pro Tem, are we allowed to ask questions?
certainly.
Okay, thank you. Along those lines that you were talking about just now, yeah, 72 miles of road. Do you have a breakdown on that of dirt roads versus paved roads?
We do, yes. I do not have it with me. I can get it to you.
I think it's on the website also, Chuck.
It is.
But it's not in the budget stuff?
No.
I have a comment. When people speak, can they state their name for like the callers that aren't seeing you?
Yes, this is Orlando Anaya.
Okay, thanks, Phil.
You're welcome. So website for that information on the 72 miles. Also, in the, how much damage was done on the dirt roads, from the storm?
It wasn't horrible. We have a few spots that the rainwater did wash over the top of the road. We were out on Steeplechase yesterday and took care of Steeplechase. I had a clogged culvert up on Martin. Other than that, they look to be in pretty good shape. We have a few edges that have given away. We'll get around to repairing those. But the road surface themselves are intact and look to be in pretty good shape.
Okay, because Kaya and Kinkala got washed out pretty good. And you guys had just redid the tops on it and spent a lot of gravel. Well, now all of that gravel base course is now on the side of the road.
We'll be out next week, and that's on my radar to get on that road. Yes, sir.
Okay, because that was one of the reasons I was asking that question for the linear feet and stuff like that. 'Cause, I was just wondering to know how much was allotted for storms, and it doesn't show that naturally in the budget, but I can kind of break it down per linear foot as to what we have based on what you've given us already. So, thanks.
Well, I think storms are a really good example of why more people power is necessary on the road crews, because summer storms wash out roads, but winter storms cover them with snow, and both are dangerous and costly and require a whole lot of work. So I would really like to see if we can get a second road crew. It's my understanding that we do have our old equipment still.
We do.
And so even if we were to do this hire in the coming fiscal year, those people would have equipment to work the roads with. The about $500,000, give or take a little bit, of equipment that we need to buy, we could buy over time. That we don't have to have immediately to put 4 more people to work. So consider that, think about that. Lizard?
Yeah, that's a big lizard.
We're being invaded by lizards.
There you go.
Where's the lizard?
Going back the other way.
Go back the other way. That's a skink. That's a big skink. All right, well, we have a cricket eater. Okay, do we have anything else, Chuck? Is there anything else you wanted to bring to our attention or wanted us to know about?
No, I think that's it. Field questions, if there's questions. Obviously, we can't control weather, so to forecast what I'll need in the event of a storm is pretty tough to do.
Don't we have a running tally from year to year?
What, of road-based use?
No, for storm costs. What is it, each year you should know how much, it's costing us for these rainstorms for monsoon. They come every year, and the same damages is going on every year. Dirt roads are dirt roads, and they're gonna get damaged. So that's why I was wondering, that should be, or I would assume that that would be an item that, we should know. It should be placed into the budget somewhere.
Well, we've got an annual road-based budget, but the road base doesn't go on the same roads every year.
Well, that's true.
And so.
But the storm goes to the same town every year.
Well, yeah, but you know as well as I do, a thunderstorm can locally drop a whole heck of a lot of water on my house, but not yours. So, yeah, we do have a running budget tally, if you will, of what it's cost in gravel every year, what we've spent. We could go back through annual budgets going back to the founding of the town. If you're interested in that, we could
Well,
certainly get you the
it's not
information.
that I'm interested in it, the town is interested. We'd like to know what kind of expenditures we really have, breaking it down. I guess I'm analytical, I apologize for that, but I'm in business.
No apology.
And I need to know, I'd like to know, and you have to, in business, you have to know where your costs are, and what's reoccurring, and what's not reoccurring, and what's caused by, act of God.
If you look in the budget for roads that is there, you're going to see a materials budget. And that annual materials budget, I think, was increased this year by,
Well, it's been 250,000 a year.
yeah,
Is what we spend on just base course.
right. And that's not for sand and salt for wintertime.
Exactly.
So you're talking $250,000 worth of base course annual is what basically the town has been putting in for the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 years. Before that, it was about $160,000 a year. And that was in the preceding maybe 5 or 6 years. Before that, it was a little less. Every year it's gotten to be a little bit more because the town's gotten a little bigger.
Yeah, just checkerboard.
Well, it's less checkerboard now than it once was, but we have added quite a considerable amount over the years to the amount of road base that we use. And we've never not used what we've allocated. In fact, several times we've had to go buy more. And we can do that.
Has the town ever considered, using subcontractors to, help catch up?
The town uses subcontractors primarily on the pavement, and,
Well, yeah, that I can-
and paving. We don't have we don't have the hot equipment that's necessary for asphalt or patching or that kind of stuff. I wouldn't mind getting that equipment. However, we got to put it to use, and we've had the discussions about getting road equipment like a chip seal setup. The problem with a chip seal setup is that when you use it, you have to clean it afterwards to store it, and the cleaning is almost as expensive as paving something.
Have you checked with, Torrance County? They do it all the time.
We've checked with Santa Fe County, and we've talked to them repeatedly. They don't seem all that horribly interested in helping us out, unfortunately. I would encourage that conversation to continue, and I think we can talk to them again, get them down here and have, they've got roads down here too. So it wouldn't be too bad to get them down here and see about maybe, I don't know, leasing their equipment, renting their equipment, and their crews to get that kind of stuff done. But we have talked to them.
We've asked them that in the past.
Joint power agreement.
Yeah, we've asked them in the past if they'd be willing to do something. They said they'd entertain it, and then of course it comes back with, oh, we've got our own roads, our own window of opportunity to get them done, and so sorry, not this time. We are trying to work with them to get an MOU together for, like, when they do striping or snowplow, something like that, to where, if they're gonna be striping a shared road, they'll let us know, we'll let them know, okay, well, look, we can continue on, and it's just gonna cost you guys this much, so that way we don't have this little patch, I don't know if you just saw where they just did on Dinkle, and it just, this little patch that stops, and then it picks back up again, so, we're trying to get some sort of MOU together with them, so when they do that, hey, look, here's what we're gonna be doing down in your area, and that way we're part of that conversation with them, but, we don't have an agreement just yet.
Chuck Lee, I would recommend that we contact Torrance County over Santa Fe County. Since Santa Fe County hasn't seemed to be very interested. Torrance County has probably more miles of chip seal road than any other county in the state. I'm gambling when I say that, but I know they have miles of and chip sealed Estancia and the roads going out from Estancia. So I think it would be a good idea to look at them. Not solely, I guess, but in addition to Santa Fe County.
Well, never hurts to ask.
The topic of roads.
Rouse Hill, Chuck, I really believe we need that second crew, but as far as equipment, this is another road grader. Wouldn't that be the primary piece of equipment that you would?
Primary, yes, I believe that they all hold pretty much equal value as every one of them provides a different process in the maintenance.
Yeah.
So is a grader more beneficial than a roller? That's hard to say. You could certainly get more done with the grader.
Yeah.
But without compaction, the road deteriorates quicker.
But you have currently two road graders.
Well, one is on the way. It should be here at the end of the month. And then we have another operational grader yet.
And I was wondering, what paving projects do we have on the books right now? Don't we have Church Road?
So Church Road is designed and just waiting funding. Now, we do have the capital outlay, from the state, and we also, have the potential use of the ARP funding, when and if that comes in. And that'll be a decision for the governing body to figure out how they want to use that. And then, will that be enough to do the complete design with the trail and everything? No, but it'll be enough to at least get, 2 lanes of asphalt all the way down. That project is 100% designed, ready to go. We also have steeplechase preliminarily designed. Was it 30%, Carla? 30% designed for steeplechase. And as additional roads come up, then we'll kind of try and target them for new roads for pavement. I know the Planning and Zoning Commission and the governing body did the paving priority list update in 19, and there was a few of those roads that kind of the low-hanging fruit that they thought they could get away with a good chip seal on, Appaloosa, Square H, some of those ones, but I guess, as always, funding's the preliminary issue with those. Some of the roads, like I said, they would just need some additional base and road prep before we would chip seal them. But other roads, like steeplechase, are going to require substantial construction and engineering design for the more for the drainage issues than the roadway itself.
Yeah. That's the one thing that this town has always been most interested in, the community, are the roads. That's one of the reasons we broke away from Santa Fe, was they weren't maintaining our roads. That was a big item. So I think, like Carla said, the prices are going to go up. We need to buy the equipment stuff we need now.
It's Carla. I don't know if Chuck spoke to this, but we are doing some future planning. We're trying to get road standards done so that future roads are built correctly and withstand time. Chuck, you want to talk to that a little bit?
We're currently working, like Carla said, on the road standard to bring it up so that when contractors and developers come in to do our road system, it's at a standard that they're not allowed to haphazardly come in and just hop in roads. Hopefully we should have that done. I'm hoping maybe next month. And that'll set the standard for future roads.
Yeah, so you don't have such a haphazard.
Well, and I guess also with respect to that too, not just developers but also the town. So when the town's going to redo one of our roads or pave one of our roads, here's now the standard we're going to go to.
And we'll all be held to that standard, and we have a pretty nice road system.
Shall we move on to another department?
I guess James just kind of segue a bit from roads to maintenance. He does a lot of the roadside mowing and all that.
Yeah. In maintenance, we have a lot of crossovers with the other departments, road department, wastewater, you name it, we do it. So a lot of what I need is probably equipment and personnel also. We have hired a guy that's going to be full-time, but we could use a couple of part-time guys in the summer for weed control and tree removal. Now, if, when we get into big trees, we have to rely some on the road department guys too, which would be nice to have another crew set up so one could help me and then one could maintain roads, keep that going. So, as far as needs, probably a tractor would be one of them. We would probably want at least 100 for us with a loader. I've got a whole list of stuff, so we just name it off.
Go for it.
All right. Well, yeah.
Go for it.
Yeah, you can kind of name it off and why you would need it.
Okay. Okay, The tractor with the loader, of course, would be for mowing and tree removal. Dump trailer would be for mowing, tree removal, landscaping. What I would like is a short side one where we can get the branches on there easier. We need about a 16-foot event trailer. We have a small one, but I kind of need it to haul the smaller mowers around. So if we could get a 16-foot event trailer, we could have all of our stuff on it all at once, or we could just move it once. We have talked about putting a storage building at parks, at Venus Park, where we can store mowers and event stuff in there also. This was mentioned this morning about a wood chipper. Like out at the wastewater plant, we have to currently buy our chips, and we have plenty of branches and trees that we remove. We could make our own chips if we had. Also at the sewer plant, we kind of need a pair of sinks, a big one and a little one, sewer sinks. Mike's not here, so I'm kind of intervening for him a little bit, I guess. Let's see, Chuck has already mentioned the maintenance agreement for the graders. Let's see, we need to landscape the front of town hall and get some lighting put out here. I do have an estimate for the landscape part of it, runs about 8,500 was the one estimate that I did get. The lighting I have not checked on yet. A lot of our smaller equipment are push mowers, trimmers, weed whackers, chainsaws. They're all about wore out now, so I need to update smaller tools. Let's see. I talked to Chief yesterday. We had that power outage, which brought up the problem of power at PD. It's an emergency service. We might need a backup generator to hook into their building so they can stay up and running in case of an emergency.
Well, and real quick on that note, I think what makes that more important now is the way Santa Fe County forced us to set up the link with their CAD system. So where before we could just air card from the units to the CAD. Well, now we have to air card to the police department, and then it does the fiber connection up to Santa Fe. So, you know, that connection's only as good as long as that battery backup that the server's on and stuff, that equipment's on is there for. So if we get a good power outage like we did, 3 years ago?
Yeah,
the PD is gonna be doing everything, manually. They won't have access to that information, so.
If you don't mind, Chief Sanchez, I'd like to add to that. Also, most of our department is run off magnetic door closures. So when the power goes out, so do they. It's kind of chuckling when it's just the employees, but if we have a prisoner that needs to come in or anything, we can't get him in. If we need to get him out of there, can't get him out of there. So it's kind of a lockdown situation. So.
Yeah, that is true. If someone's in the holding cell and that goes out,
They're in there for a while.
yeah,
Yeah.
we might be trying to break through that window to get them out.
That's not gonna work. No, that's just no. That's not good.
okay.
Do you have any estimates on a generator system?
I do not. Yeah, we just kind of got that yesterday, so I'll work on that.
And that's what I was saying, I'd like to have these multiple hearings. So if something like that comes up and, you know, kind of the consensus or when you guys would like us to do that, we can go get those quotes and at least get some base numbers so we know the ballpark range we're dealing with.
What I would recommend, if you can, is pull the electric bills for the PD, and we can run an estimate of power usage, and then we can scale a generator for that. That's kind of what I have to do for server rooms. That power and cooling is important. So, I would be more than happy to take a look at that, help you guys out.
Yeah.
We can spec something, and we'll bring that back. Okay. What else you got?
Let's see, well, we do have a new hire coming in to maintenance, so we will probably need a new service truck, or another service truck. And this actually kind of is road department and wastewater, but the town only has one backhoe. If the road department's using it and the waste department needs it, we're in trouble. Possibly look at a new backhoe for the road department and hand me down the ones we have to wastewater.
Or vice versa.
Or vice versa. Yeah.
I can get us a quote.
Did we get a quote on a second backhoe? It sounds like we're growing at a point where we're gonna need equipment for people to use.
Right.
All around.
And then our parks kind of need some attention. We need probably some lighting and security measures.
What kind of security measures are you thinking about?
Well, kind of a camera system probably. Bassett Park has the police department right there, and we do have a camera on it. But Venus has nothing. We do have a light over there. It's better, but I think we need a light in the parking lot maybe. Something to look at. We need to add water down the field, make some trees.
James, if you don't mind, I'd like to intercede. When we had our movie, a couple weeks ago, Movies in the Park.
Yeah.
We turned the camera, when we turned that thing on, it was pitch black.
Yeah.
We were using everybody's headlights on their vehicles just in order to get everybody out there safely. And we all know there's some boulders, things like that, especially when you're dealing with elderly people walking through that, and they can't say, it can become an issue very quickly. Turns around to realize, no, you have the town itself.
So, if you can get some idea of what we would need, I know the light that's out there, I think it's a solar light. Solar LED light. If that's the kind of thing that would help, I mean, that would be something we could do, put in, more of those.
That's also something I think we need in front of this building. When the council meetings get out, it's dark out there.
Yeah.
If we don't have a good pool, it's dark.
No. And if you can put together some sort of estimate or get somebody to take a look at in the next few weeks, what, extending water out and maybe, that would allow us to put trees out, because, if we planted trees out there now without some kind of
Water
system, we'd be in trouble. And I know the trees across Bachelor Draw, that watering system and those trees has worked, but it's also kind of ugly.
Mayor Pro Tem, I guess since we're kind of jumping around a little bit, so Carla and James kind of got a preliminary estimate to put in additional, I don't really want to call it a field, but another grassy area in there. And I don't know if you guys kind of.
I don't actually have that estimate with the dirt work is going to be significant. A significant cost on that. You remember what it was, Carla?
For the sod,
I know it's about 30,000 for the sod, but the dirt work was.
About
Well,
100,
actually, I'm still working on estimates on that.
but it was about 100 initially, 100,000 on the dirt work. The sod was relatively inexpensive at that point. It was like $26,000. But it would expand the park significantly, give us more grassy area. which we desperately need. That park gets used a lot. And, we get requests to use it all the time.
And so we're talking about $130,000
To put in about a
estimate,
half field size of grass. It wouldn't
And
be
that
an
would be-
official soccer field.
and that would be behind the current,
It would be to the north of the pavilion. It would almost make the grass an L-shaped property, a backwards L-shaped grass
Okay.
area.
okay. Yeah, no, that sounds like a very worthwhile project.
So we've got that part. The other one for Venus Park specifically that I know I can personally say I take a lot of phone calls asking, when are we ever going to get playground equipment there?
Mhm.
So that's another thing to consider. Yeah, so playground equipment. Carla's looking into also potentially getting some estimates for a dog park. 'Cause that's another one we always hear a lot about.
We do have a good idea for a dog park, maybe going right in next to the animal control courthouse building so that they could take advantage of it as well. Looked at, cost estimates for about 2 acres, large dog park, small dog park, trying to get the dogs off of the Venus Park itself, only because a lot of people don't pick up after their animals. So before any event at Venus Park or any soccer game, somebody has to be out there collecting dog poop off that area. So segmenting a certain dog park would be really good. If, and having people actually use it, making it attractive enough for people to go to. I'll bring an estimate to the next meeting.
Okay.
I have asked for that.
Great. Perfect. Yes.
Just for talking about it,
Here you-
off the subject, but,
Come on.
talking about the grass.
Two of mine.
I'm sorry. This is Cheryl Hubbard. You're talking about grass field, it just made me think, consider getting a reuse line from the corner of, Church and, 344, I believe that 1 month, that's where the line already comes to, over this way to water this grass. Seems like that would be a big savings to the town.
There is already an estimate for that. It's about $1.5 million to get that reuse.
Just a reuse line?
Yeah,
Yeah.
just a reuse line.
Yeah. That estimate's been around for quite a while
Yeah,
now.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead. About the bridge over troubled waters. Are we ever gonna get that?
The construction on that's about to begin.
What?
About to begin.
That's good news. Thank you.
Do you want me to talk about the bridge?
You can talk about the bridge.
Talk about the bridge. I don't necessarily want to talk about the
Oh,
bridge.
okay.
That's another project that's gonna be way over estimate. It was probably under asked for at the very beginning, because there was some idea that when we applied for the funding back a few years ago, a lot of the work could be done by town staff. That's not true. Once you apply for federal funds, you're under all their rules and guidelines. All that work will have to be contracted out. It will have to be contracted out to contractors who have to follow a very specific set of rules. I'll give you an example. That bridge has to be sandblasted to clean to get every bit of lead paint off of it. It can only be done by people in full bunny suits, geared up. There will have to be a layer of cloth put down on that ground, and not one piece of lead can touch that ground. And there is no, they are having to go down to every nut and bolt to clean off the lead paint on that bridge. That cost itself, by itself, was way over what was originally asked for in this project. So is the bridge going to go to construction next month? Yes. It's probably going to go to construction at 4 times what it was originally awarded for. And there's no way to stop that, because we've done the design, and once you accept $1 of federal funds, if you don't complete it, you're paying them back everything you spent on.
I did have a question. Mr. McGill had sent us some emails like 2 years ago, maybe, or a year and a half ago at least, saying that if you just moved the location up a little bit, I believe it was, that the cost could be limited. And he was also worried about the engineering of the water getting higher than anticipated by the engineering firm. Did you guys address those concerns?
Yeah, I think I'll go back and look at the plans, but they're built for a 100-year flood, which is the most I think they can build it for. And the location wouldn't have changed the cost. The costs are really wrapped up in the cleaning of that bridge, the signed and executed design plans for that bridge, making sure everything's American made. It's a big cost. We went through probably a year and a half of design trying to prove that bridge was American made. It was put in the 30s. FHWA wanted us to prove the provenance of where that metal came from and where that steel came from. We spent months with museums in the Midwest trying to prove where that steel was actually forged. And in the end got a waiver from that, but the expenses wrapped up in all the federal regulations necessary to put that bridge in.
If I may chime in also, so the placement and all that stuff, the survey, everything of that all had to be approved by DOT as well.
Yep.
Because DOT is the one, I guess they're the ones with the
Fiscal
going up
oversight.
they have the fiscal oversight, but also they're the ones checking, making sure we're meeting all the federal requirements. So everything has to be run through them before we can move forward. Part of the problem we had, I don't know if you recall, we initially, you as the governing body authorized us to bid this a year and a half ago.
Yep.
And then when the bid came in well above at that point, we had to wait for DOT to allow us to go in and see, is there anything we could change to potentially lower the cost of the bid? And, of course, then COVID hit and everything took forever. Finally got the approval, reissued the bid again, and it came back even higher. And that's just the unfortunate reality of it. And yeah, so we do have it. We are in negotiations now, trying to see what costs we can lower. Once we have the final amount, we'll bring it back and I guess let you guys decide if you want to still move forward with the project or I guess pay back funding. I mean, that's kind of where we're coming to with it.
So at this point, how much has already been spent and how further do we have to go?
We've probably spent about, I'll get actual accurate numbers for you, but on estimate, I would say we've spent about $300,000 and we probably have about 600 to go.
$1 million bridge.
It is. Yeah.
Wow.
And the original award amount, I believe received in 2015 or 2016 was $155,000. Now, we've gotten additional funds from NMDOT since then. It hasn't been us financing the whole thing. NMDOT has awarded us additional funding along the way. So I'll get you the number breakdown over what they're paying for, what we're paying for. We're not picking up the full amount of that overage.
And what purpose is this, just so that the public can hear? What is the purpose of the project?
Of the bridge, it's to expand the trail system through section 16.
In some historical context, right?
The bridge is very historical. It was probably a bridge that was put in, when, remind me again, the bombs that traveled, through it to explode on Trinity site went over that bridge. So it is of some historic value to the state of New Mexico.
Did you guys find out where the steel came from?
Not a clue.
Well, we know where it was forged, but we do not know where the ore came from. That
Where was it forged?
It was forged.
Kansas City.
Yeah.
Okay.
But,
Wow.
in the end, FHWA gave us a waiver so that we would not have to go on the Federal Register and people would not have to make, that would have extended the project another year. If we'd have had to go on the Federal Register and have people comment on where that bridge came from.
Mayor, Pro Tem. How wide is that bridge?
It's a pedestrian, how wide was the bridge? It was wide enough for traffic to go through. On this side, it's gonna be just wide enough for some pedestrian traffic and equestrian traffic to make its way through there.
So 6 foot max.
No, it'll be wider
No,
than that.
wider than that. I have the plans if you like, I'll show them.
What's the cost to just build a new one for the purpose of pedestrians, horses?
That wasn't even, I think when they originally asked for money for that project, that wasn't even something they considered. I mean, you'd have to bring back, I guess, Roger at that point, right, and ask him if they would consider.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
The point I'm trying to get to there is, if part of the project is to use the bridge could be set aside, plaque. Yeah.
No, we're under a federal, we're obligated because we made the mistake of funding this into the federal government. Like you said, we gotta pay it back if we don't proceed.
Or ask for a reuse. So, I would try to get bids on a new one and then resubmit it as a reuse of funds.
Well, unfortunately, I don't know how many people you've gotten to agree with you, because there was a lot of work done on that bridge. A lot of honest, hard work done on that bridge by the staff, by people that are now gone. Roger Olin, he worked tirelessly on that.
He did.
Did the very best he could. It's not the town's fault that we have a bridge that cost us more than it was originally, and it's not the town's fault that's going to be more, even more. I don't think that you'll save a lot of money by building a new bridge. I'm not a bridge maker, so I can't say that for sure. The reason we wanted the bridge there was because it was tied to a family in the community who had done millions of dollars of work in the state and I think in the community. It was of historical value. It just put us on a partnership with DOT. We thought that the partnership would be more beneficial to us, but as it is, it was quite beneficial. And the cost just kept going up, and it's not our fault. I don't think it's DOT's fault, but I think to change horses in the middle of the stream right now, or in the middle of the arroyo, would be a mistake, and I think it would fail miserably when it comes to following through on something we said we would do. That bridge was donated to the town of Edgewood by the Houston family, and I think to back off on it would be a horrible mistake. So,
And let me just say again, we're not covering all the old bridges. DOT is kicking in more money. The feds are kicking in more money.
Carla, if we don't proceed, we've got to pay back. How much?
You gotta pay back everything we've spent to date,
Which is
probably about $300,000.
$360.
600 is what's left to spend.
Well, I'm not saying scrap the project. I'm saying that we could, use the bridge as a museum artifact with explaining what it is, set next to the new walkway. Can't even call it a bridge, it's a walkway. That's just an idea.
I think that the time will come where we can have some brainstorming and, you know, everyone can talk about that again, right? I don't think we're at the point in budget right now where we have to make a complete decision. But, you know, you have some good points, you know, that, maybe some thinking outside the box, I don't know. Plus, sounds like we still have to get estimates that we don't have yet.
No, we're close. All we're doing now is negotiating down the cost of the contractor bid.
I thought I heard one say that it may come in even more.
The construction, installation, and finished product of this bridge is going to be a centerpiece for a long-term recreational area project that you probably are aware of. It also will be a feature on the Santa Fe County Trail System, which is also part of this project and its extension. So,
Well, and planned so long ago, it's actually part of the Section 16 plan.
it is part of the Section 16 plan, and so having that donation from the Houston family, I think, is a real reasonable thing to honor. And you know, expenses aside, I think this thing is going to be quite the centerpiece for the town of Edgewood. So I'm very happy to have heard that we are very close to beginning to break ground and actually do the final installation of that bridge. Regardless of who and how it gets used, who uses it and how it gets used, it's still going to be quite a nice thing when it's done. The surrounding trail systems that were planned are going to benefit everybody in the town, and probably a lot of people in the state from out of state as well, because it'll be an attraction.
Well, and it's being placed in a way that it already connects to an existing footpath that can be made into a formalized trail.
Yeah. So,
Ralph Hill, doesn't the, government also make us upgrade the trail system there?
They're going to not make us upgrade the trail system, but at least allow us to upgrade the trail system. That land belongs to,
state land
the
office.
state land office, but because the bridge is being placed there, they'll allow us to upgrade the trail system to national.
For a while, Dr. Sabo was using the system
Yeah.
as prescription trails. I think that'd be a good.
Well, they'll still be using them as prescription trails,
Yeah, okay.
at this point, I think we'll be putting down some pressure fines and defining the trails a little bit better and maintaining them. I think that's good on the bridge. Where are we at? You have any more, James?
No, that's not it.
Okay.
Just to clarify on that part, how much in operational dollars are we budgeting for the coming year for the bridge?
Well, right now, it was budgeted, same thing as last year, our match. When we get the final cost, we'll be bringing that forward, you know, to see if you guys want to do that budget adjustment. As it sits right now, without any negotiation, Carla, 160,000 over?
Yeah, but we probably are on the verge of negotiating out about 80 of that.
So we want to try and see how much down that's going to be, and then we'll bring forth and see if you guys want to fund that overage. I mean, I'd like to have, if we have that number, so what we're waiting on is we're waiting for DOT to see if they'll authorize, the contractor to make some changes or to change their stuff, because it is all, they have to follow the federal guidelines. So, once we hear back, we get that final number, hopefully we'll have that during this budget conversation.
So what I'm saying is, do we have 160 already budgeted? Or are you saying that you didn't budget anything
No,
for that
we've
yet?
We've got budget in there. Like I said, we're planning to do this project last year.
Yeah, so it's about 160 in the budget right now. Is that what I'm
No,
hearing?
we have more than that in the budget now.
How much?
I
Or
don't know.
just roughly?
Do you know offhand, Carla, for the bridge, what we got left?
280, 300?
So let's say it's 300 of operational.
It's all construction funds at this.
Yeah, it's all coming out of our,
9900
Probably
other
about
capital projects.
yes.
Okay, so we have about 2 million in expenditures there planned. And so the bridge would be about 300 of that.
It was 300 in this budget. We would add another 240 in this year because of capital outlay.
You will?
Yes.
Right, remember, we received the capital outlay funding for it,
Yeah.
and then we're gonna have whatever the overage fund is.
And then plus another,
Right.
once you find out from DOT, okay. All right, gotcha. And then, what else is in this 2 million? I'm just curious while we're looking at it.
Well, this this 2,750,000 for wastewater treatment plant, the screens, the
Echo Ridge.
Echo Ridge funding, the 450 for Church Street.
Yeah, 650. No, 450. Yeah.
That was the capital outlay from that.
Yeah.
So this was basically everything we had in there last year, capital outlay.
Okay.
And so when we do put the final, we'll put in the final capital outlay that was also received from the board this year as well.
Any more, James?
That's it.
Okay.
Has any questions on that? Big list.
Actually, I have one for you, James. Vehicle-wise for staff, what type of vehicle are you looking at?
Probably a half-ton truck.
Okay.
Yeah, we have a heavy truck that we can use to pull trailers and stuff. We just need a half-ton truck.
A small truck. Not a utility truck, but a
No, I think just a regular bed would work fine.
Okay, we're going that way around the room. Andrea, it's your turn.
You guys are confused me about what this tax means.
Good morning. This is Andrea Corbin speaking. I'm the librarian for the Edgewood Community Library. I did see that we had some people tuning in on Facebook. Hello. I just want to begin with a thanks for letting me or allowing us to participate in the budget workshop. It really is a huge thing for us that you can listen to the needs and wants of the community. So I have some big asks this year, but first what I want to give you a little spiel, I guess. What was abundantly made clear to me during the pandemic is that I cannot do it all anymore. We need more staff. And if you will bear with me, I want to go through what I actually do. It is going to be a long list, but the reason why I want to go through it is because I want to paint you a realistic picture of what we do as librarians. I think that there are some assumptions or there are some stereotypes about librarians, and I kind of want to address that so you can see what we actually do requires much more staff than what we currently have. And I'm asking for more paid staff. I love our volunteers. Our volunteers are wonderful, but they're more kind of like, I want to say more akin to mascots, and they are very good at establishing and maintaining positive rapport with the community because they're from the community. So I don't think it's sustainable to depend on them for everyday library operations anymore. So what do? I've been with the town of Edgewood for about 13 years, and this is pretty much how we've been operating since I came on in about 2009 as library assistant, and then I transitioned into librarian, but that title was changed to library operations manager, I think around when, I don't know, about 2015. So anyway, what we do is we do ongoing collection development. This means that I curate collection acquisitions before I purchase them. And when I say curate, I find out, okay, what are people reading? What do people want? And how do I do that? I do it by continually evaluating the collection based on user statistics and what people want from the community. And that's how I base the collections development policy. So I follow the collection development policy. I follow what people want in the community. And I see, okay, what is kind of quote unquote dying in the collection that I need to replace. And so it's always inventory in, inventory out. And that is almost a full-time job in of itself. It also includes processing new acquisitions, meaning covering each book with a Mylar cover. It also means cataloging each item, and that is something that is done electronically. Basically what I have to do is, which is nice, it's a little bit streamlined with our automation system, but basically what I have to do is find the marked record or all the little records that need to be attached to that book and input it in the system, and then add a copy, assign it to a collection, and that's before we even put it on the shelf. So by the time we put an actual book on the shelf, it's already been touched about 10 times minimum. And that is a lot of time and effort and money gone into that. And some of these things I can train the volunteers to do, other things I cannot. Our volunteers are only here for about 1 day a week for a 4-hour period. So training is usually ongoing. Every time I give them a newer task before they learn it, it has to be repetition before they can pick it up and be able to do things unsupervised and on their own. And that's not a bad thing. It's just, it takes me away from other administrative duties. Okay, so moving on to maintenance and improvement. So you wouldn't think a librarian does maintenance, right? But we do. We do.
And they do a good job.
It's just impossible for James and the other people in the department to be absolutely everywhere at all times. And what we can do, we do. What I can't do, I figure it out. And if I can't do it, then I wait for someone else to do it. So we, on a weekly basis, do light cleaning, meaning we take out the trash, we vacuum, we spot vacuum. When we open back up, we will have to do daily disinfection. So these guidelines were updated by the New Mexico Department of Health, and they recommend to follow CDC guidelines. So the current CDC guidelines recommend disinfection at least once a day. So our daily disinfection will probably take place in the morning. We did invest in some disinfectant, what do you call those? Sterilizers? Atomizers. So this will not be going on when we're open because we don't want people to inhale any of those particles. And of course, we'll be wearing masks and we'll be wearing personal protection equipment when we disinfect. But this is to make sure that we keep our patrons safe. It is very impossible to wipe down every surface, so that's why we got the aerolizers. The kids area has a lot of soft toys, a lot of hands-on manipulative. So we're gonna have to spray that stuff down and wipe down areas that are high traffic, like the computer lab, the chairs, door handles, and we probably will have to do some light cleaning in the restrooms every single day. We also spend a lot of time on supplies procurement when I'm doing large projects. I try to save the town of Edgewood money by building things. So we built a lot of tables in the computer lab. We are building other things too, because yes, to keep the costs down. But and they'll last longer because they're kind of hand built and they're more sturdy than buying particle board things. So this should last for a long time. And a lot of times we'll assemble shelving. The steel shelving does not come assembled. It comes flat packed and it's very heavy. So there's no way to get the steel shelving into the building. So we have to break the packages outside and literally carry everything in by hand. We also do touch-up painting. We do drywall patching. When I'm moving an installation somewhere else, we do have to patch that and paint everything back up. We do have a lot of hard water problems, and we take care of that with mostly vinegar soaking, but it does affect the function of the urinal, the toilet, and the sinks. So those are things that we have to do quite frequently. We would do some light landscaping, except I did not have time for that, and our spigot is broken. So we used to maintain some flowers and some other plants over by the Barrowhenge area installation, and that was an ongoing thing. We would be constantly weeding. I did, with Roger's help and some of the other departments a couple years ago, and my mom too. My family gets involved a lot too with a lot of these projects. We did put some weed cloth down. We reused the gravel from the playground area, but all the weeds are poking through the weed cloth, and so that's an ongoing issue. And for a while there, because the spigot was broken, I'm filling up really huge containers with water on our push cart, pushing it out there and watering all the plants in the pots. We also, instead of purchasing large pots, I made, with a couple of other volunteers, some paper crepe pots. They're lightweight pots made with perlite and newspaper. So, you know, we make it work. We try to save the town money. A lot of the administrative stuff has to do with collecting and analyzing and reporting on library statistics to the council, to the public, and to the New Mexico State Library, and to the federal government. The reason why we do that reporting on an annual basis or quarterly basis is so people know what we're doing, how our programs are doing, what we're spending our money on. But that does take some time to compile stats and to be able to report on it in a meaningful way so people can understand what we're doing and why we're doing it and how we're doing it and how much money we're spending. We spend a lot of time maintaining the library web pages and updating them. We spend a lot of time trying to recover overdue items, as well as helping the library advisory board post agendas, being able to help proofread the minutes, and then I have to put that in a readable format and get that up on to the website frequently. Other administrative tasks, I've got to monitor the budget. I have to prepare procurement requests. So anytime we purchase something, for the most part, we have to put in a PO request. And so that does, if it's a large purchase, that takes a lot of time and research and seeing from beginning to the end. So you start like with a cart, but you have to, some items you have to go out to bid, and then that's a long, kind of drawn out process. We do design our own promotional materials, and we help the town of Edgewood with their events and their programming, designing promotional materials. We regularly review and establish and write policies. I also maintain a strategic plan based on community assessment. Those are not only required at the state level to receive state grants and aid funding and go on, but it's also good practice. to have a strategic plan, based on what the community's needs are. So we're gonna be coming up on another community assessment, and it's usually a very large project. I'm gonna do it a little bit different, but it takes time and it takes buy-in from the community to be interested in telling the library what they need. Programming takes us a huge amount of time. And typically when we do regular programming. We're not doing regular programming right now because obviously we're not open to the public, but usually our regular programming encompasses story time hour every Wednesday. We did have an after-school reading program, and I usually schedule at least one community event at the library each month, which usually draws in about 75 to 100 people. So there's a lot of planning, budget planning, and time and effort that goes into that, not only prior to that, during, but also after too. So, for instance, like our pumpkin carving, we usually get about 75 to 100 people. I gotta go get them pumpkins. We gotta get everything set up and ready to go. We've got to advertise it on Facebook. We've got to advertise it in libraries. So there's a lot of different things that we have to do and a lot of planning that goes into programming. And then we also have to regularly reevaluate our programming. Is it being attended? Do people like it? Is it worth our time and our effort? So there's a lot of things that go. There's a lot of things that go into that. And I haven't been able to do a ton of outreach, but in the past, we were pretty prevalent in the community at different events like Run Valley Rock, the parade, other Town of Edgewood events, like the Water Day, and there's other things that we usually participate in. And a lot of times we'll all pitch in. So that's another way that I'm doing outreach to the community, which is great. This is the last item, I promise you guys. Thanks for bearing with me. So on top of all those things, we also do daily operations. Even though I'm a lot of times at my desk or doing programming or planning or whatever, I also need to stay in tune with our daily operations. This means assisting the volunteers to assist the patrons. So even though I do provide quarterly training for the volunteers and in the moment training for the volunteers, a lot of times they will need my help to help the patrons. And so that takes me away from my desk and other administrative things. So the things that we help people with are various questions like reference inquiries. Where is this book? How do I find it? And there's almost an interview process when it comes to reference, being able to find the right book for the person, because sometimes people don't understand what they're asking for or what they need. And we do a lot of input on patron information. With new patrons, we've got to input that and maintain the files with our patron registration form. Shelving books, that's a constant thing that has to happen every day. Pulling reserved items. Helping people over the phone access our catalog or access our ebook consortium. Shelf shipping things, and maintaining positive rapport with the community. So I've lived in this community, I want to say almost 30 years now. So I know a lot of people. I grew up with a lot of these people. And so, you know, people want to come in and talk and visit. And I do like to be able to talk to people, but sometimes I can't. And I don't feel like I can just shut my door on their face because they're lovely people. And then it also gives me a good chance to promote a lot of our programming and what we're doing and what's going on with the library. So it keeps everybody involved and invested in the library. We also have to open and close the library. There's certain things that we have to do every single day. It takes a little bit of time to close and open. We got to check all the doors and make sure everything's secure. Also, we have to try to get people out the door because a lot of times people will kind of linger and I can't get people to leave because they love being on the computer and stuff like that. That's not a bad thing, but sometimes I'll be staying late, catching up on things 30, maybe 40 minutes before we can even I can even get people to the door sometimes. We always have to get items from book drop and get them checked in, stuff like that. Right now, it takes a long time to prep for curbside services. Rachel's great, so we've been able to prep for that. We literally have to pull all the books, get them scanned in, get them rubber band on the cart, ready to go. We also have to prepare all the take and make kits to be able to distribute. And then during that curbside service hour, it's in and out, in and out, in and out. We regularly monitor Facebook because when people have questions, I want to be able to get back to them in a couple hours or so. We regularly respond and monitor email. So we are everywhere doing everything all the time. And if I'm ill or someone else is ill, it's too much for one person to do. And our volunteers aren't obligated to come in. So a lot of times, it will just be one person running the library if we don't have enough staff for that day. And the former librarian, she was very ill this last year. So it was just me from March 2020 until Rachel came on. So I think we do a pretty darn good job for what we've got, but we need more to keep the library going forward, moving forward, and give the people of Edgewood what they need and deserve. So with that, I'm going to move on to my ask, and then I'm going to shut up, okay?
Ms. Coulson, can I just interject?
Yes.
You also have the computer lab.
Yes, we
that
do.
you are responsible for. So tell us what your duties are there.
So the computer lab is self-serve, but oftentimes we have people who are inexperienced using the computers. Unfortunately, I do not have time to spend more than 30 minutes with someone, but a lot of times I'll get them where they need to go or get them signed on their email. Or if they need a template, I show them how to do a template. Sometimes they need help formatting things. So a lot of time is spent on that too. When people print, I have to go get the printing and then we've got to change hands with money. So that's another thing that it almost needs regular monitoring if people need help. We used to have a one-on-one computer program, but that was run by a volunteer. He passed away. But we don't have the staff to provide that kind of training or that kind of assistance. And a lot of the other libraries do not offer that type of service in the moment. They have scheduled one-on-one sessions. And that is something that we can outsource if we decide we wanted to. If we had extra funding, there might be a way we can outsource that to offer some computer training. We did have regular computer classes, and then when John had passed away, we didn't have them. Those were free, but people didn't come to them. So they wanted them, but they didn't come to them. So he would be there and nobody would show up, but they want them. So this way we have, it's self-serve. That's what I say. But we offer quote unquote light assistance. Does that kind of answer your question?
Sure, and I'm just thinking too, I'm sure you've got to do a lot of troubleshooting, when something's not going right with the computers. I know Jesus can't be everywhere either.
Yeah, so in the past, when we did not have Jesus, which he is a literal godsend, we would do all the updates ourselves. We would do all the troubleshooting. We would maintain the software licensing. We would maintain the what do they call it? The antivirus software. We would do all that. And we would do the procurement for the computers as well. So I would have, and I am not a tech person, but in order for us to increase, because we didn't have the money to buy more computers yet, we literally ordered one of those, what do you call those, data sticks or whatever? What do you call those? No, it's like something to increase the RAM memory. What are those things called?
Oh, that's RAM memory.
What is it?
RAM memory.
Yeah, RAM memory. We did a bunch of research. We literally purchased more RAM memory and opened up all the computers and installed them to increase the memory so we could run our more updated Microsoft software. So, you know, we do a lot. Again, I'm glad Jesus is here so he can tell me, oh, your computer's not plugged in, so I can make it work. So anyway, if we can do it, we do it, but it's no longer sustainable. And just a side note, I will be having surgery soon. So if we can't hire another person, or we don't have another room in the budget for another person, we're gonna have to scale back the days that the library is open, because Rachel will be running the library in my stead for about 4 to 5 weeks. And she will need administrative time in between actual library hours of operation to be able to keep the library running in my stead. And she will need to have adequate coverage so she's not there alone. She needs to have her bathroom breaks. She needs to have her lunch breaks. There's been many times where I've not been able to do that because we didn't have staff coverage. So it needs to move forward. And I know those are kind of extreme examples, but they are true examples. So what I am asking for, I'm asking for 2 full-time staff and 2 part-time staff. The 2 full-time staff, I would like to fill the library assistant position. These people will help with programming. They will help with daily operations. They will help with light maintenance, that light cleaning that I talked about. They will help with some of the collection development. The 2 part-time staff, I'd like them to be the reference/pages/circulation people, meaning we have a warm body at the circulation desk at all times to answer the phones, to field patron inquiries, to help shelve things. Well, they will shelve things, shelf shifts, be able to help me evaluate the collection when we're doing our annual inventory. These are all things that need to happen to have a fully functioning, successful library, and we need people to do that. I want to make sure that we maintain our good customer service. I think that will really help by having people at the circulation desk. Another ask is I would like to double our acquisitions budget from 11,000 to 22,000. Why? Let me tell you why. So I did look at some other surrounding areas. Going back to the staffing. I looked at some other surrounding or other libraries in New Mexico in the 3,000 to 10,000 legal service area population. I'm not sure what our legal service area population will be with the 2020 census. I contacted the New Mexico State Library State Data Coordinator, Carmelita, and she said that we won't be getting updated numbers until about September, which I'm sure you guys have kind of heard that. But the legal service area population will not update officially with the state library until July 1st, 2022. So the legal service area population for libraries is very important because that determines what kind of funding we get from the state with state grant aid and GO bond funding. So based on our legal service area population, from the 2010 census, we're at about 3,700. So I'm not sure what our projected numbers are, but I've heard 6,300 has been kind of thrown around for legal service area population. But even though that is our official legal service area population, the library actually serves the East Mountain and Estancia Valley areas. So we usually have about 2,700 to 3,000 people as active library members. So we are, you know, serving a large population. Those are only library card holders. That doesn't count all the people that come in for the programming and people that come in to just use the computers and stuff like that. Just to give you a little bit of background. And as soon as the New Mexico State Library gives us our official legal service area population, then that will kind of determine what the town of Edgewood financial responsibility is for the $1.50 per capita in funding towards library acquisition. So right now we are meeting that at the 3,700 mark. So if the population rises to about 6,300, the town of Edgewood has to, at minimum, supply about $9,430 for acquisitions budget each fiscal year. We're above that, but I want to increase that, so let's go back to why. Every fiscal year, I usually have to supplement our acquisitions budget with state grants and aid money and Go One funding. So what I do is I have a dollar amount that I spend each fiscal year so I can spread it out across the fiscal year. So I spend about 3 to 4,000 each, quarter on acquisitions. Typically, our acquisitions budget is spent on physical books, and we do utilize state contractors to save money. Our main state contractor that we procure actual books from is Ingram. They have very good prices, but what I would like to do is so we can save time and effort on processing new items, I would like to spend a little bit more money on creating a contract with them to have them handle some of the processing. So covering the books, labeling the books, and sending us the marked records. So I can import the marked records so I don't have to go through one by one on each record. So that will be about $1,200 in processing. So that's the Mylar covers, that's the sticky covers on the paperbacks to help hold up the rigidity of the paperback covers, and that's also the processing fees. We now have annual consortium fees. We do have an ebook consortium, which everybody loves. So giving you a little bit of information on what an ebook consortium is. It's basically a group of libraries that have similar legal service area populations that have costs shared on purchasing items for the digital collection. So anytime I purchase something, not only is it available for our patrons, it's available for all the other library patrons within that consortium. But I bought into an extra feature called Advantage Plus, which means our patrons get first dibs on all our items. So that way we maintain the priority of who borrows what and when. So that means that we have a demand now for acquisitions that are of multiple formats, meaning the print book, which we still have a lot of people that use print books. The ebooks, which are downloadable, you can read them from your laptop, you can read them on your phone, or other smart device like tablet, or an e-reader device like a Kindle or Kindle Fire. And you can also listen to these. So there's audiobooks as well. Well, those are all different formats. And it's a little bit more complicated because we do not own the books that we purchase. We are purchasing the licensing. And the reason why we use a consortium or an intermediary like Overdrive is because I don't have to maintain the overhead cost of housing all the data that the ebooks and e-audiobooks bring in. That would be a phenomenal task to maintain. And just like normal collections, if it's not used, if the book is not used, it goes out, because people don't want to use it anymore. So there is a lot of maintenance that has to go on with that as well, but that is also taken on by Overdrive, the intermediary that hosts our consortium content, our ebook content. So that's why we're part of that, is so we can cost share with other libraries. We can take advantage of the purchases that they have, so our patrons have access to their books, because it would be impossible to have as many books that the consortium has. And the Overdrive, the intermediary platform that hosts the information, all the ebook information or ebook data, they also maintain contracts, direct contracts to the publishers. So that's not something that I have to take on either. So when I'm purchasing that, I usually I don't get to purchase the book, I purchase a license. So sometimes the licenses will go for a year, sometimes 24 months, and then if you outright purchase it, it's gonna be about $100 if it's an audio book. And then if it's a digital book, it's gonna probably be about $80 a pop, and you own that title. But it depends on the publishers. So it'll vary from publisher to publisher. So I don't have all those options. So going back to the cost of the consortium, the minimum cost is $1,600 per fiscal year. That covers that extra feature, the Advantage Plus. That covers our consortium fees and our membership, and the mandatory minimum amount of purchase. This will go up when we have, I think it will go up. I'll have to look into that. It might go up if our population reaches a certain threshold, then we may have to pay more into the consortium. But I can look into that. I wasn't prepared to give numbers on that, but for sure, it's about $1,600 each fiscal year. So it's going to be much higher cost because we cannot get a tax break on that because it's not a physical book, according to I think the information was given by the DFA, so they weren't charging us. They weren't charging us for taxes, but now they are. That's an added cost. So it went up pretty substantially, and the larger the order, the larger the tax on each of those books. Also, acquisitions budget is really stretched thin when it comes to replacing tired items from the library. We do have a lot of popular items that circulate on the regular, but you know, they get water damage, they're well loved, especially our graphic novels. They're like, graphic novel is a modern version of a comic book. It's just a lot longer, thicker. But they oftentimes do not come in hardcover. And so the kids, they bend the pages, So, and then there are things that we're obligated as a library to have. Some of our classic collections, they need to be updated. Our Newbery books, this is an award-winning books. Caldecott's are also award-winning books. Those are things that libraries should have on the shelves, but you have to replace the tired copies. And I haven't been able to maintain that with the budget that we've got. So we got there. It was a long way around, but we got there. The final thing, my final ask is to increase the office supplies budget by $2,000. This is anticipating the need for daily sanitizing. We'll have to use more paper towels. We did invest in automatic paper towel dispensers, touchless automatic paper towel dispensers, which we'll have to replace those on the regular. So I want to make sure we have enough of those. The EPA approved disinfectant that I was talking about that we would spray, we'll have to replace that. Printer cartridges are usually very expensive. We do try off-brand, but they don't work as well, and they create a mess in the printer. They just like explode in the printer. So, we usually do name brand printer cartridges, but they're a little bit, more expensive. So when people are printing from the computer lab, I typically have to use state grants and aid to cover those office supply costs towards the end of the fiscal year, to buy just regular things like paper towels to clean the restrooms and the mirrors and stuff like that. So I'm asking for about $2,000 more, there. And I'm done. Thank you for listening to me. Does anybody have any questions, comments, concerns?
It looked like Councilor Abraham put one in the chat that why isn't maintenance doing a lot of that stuff?
Oh, well,
I know James had to step out for a
Yeah.
second, but, you know, James and Joe, there's only two of them, and there's all the facilities in the town and roads and
outdoor.
weeds and stuff. I mean, I guess the common thread we're hearing here from everyone is there's a lot of things to do and not enough manpower to do it. So I guess that would be my answer without James being here. I know
Yeah.
there's a lot of things, just even like Jesus. I mean, he's been tied up with the CAD project for quite a while, and we need things fixed on the computer, but there's only one person. He can't be in 5 places at once.
What happens with the,
Yeah, but it just makes more sense to me that maintenance should be building shelves, not our librarian. Or painting or fixing holes. I think maybe we should just shift some responsibility for those types of projects away from Andrea and let her do librarian things. I mean, she's got plenty, so if we could just, maybe help with those, that might help her some. Just a suggestion.
yeah, so I can't speak for James, but, I've noticed that they do a lot of the outdoor maintenance, and that takes up the majority of their time. So, if there's something that I can't do myself, I will ask James to do it, but it's kind of been like this since I've worked for the library. We just kind of figure it out. Because sometimes it needs to be fixed immediately and it can't happen. They do a lot of stuff, and I don't want to make it seem like James or Angie or anyone's not doing their job. I just want to, I didn't mean to make it seem like that. They are wonderful people and they do a good job. I just, want you to see that we need more help.
I do have a question on that note.
Yeah.
In the past, it seemed like we were having issues getting the school district to maintain things as they are responsible for and fix things. So did we ever, it doesn't seem like we got that worked out. I mean, even last year with Parks and Rec and maintaining the playground, maintaining the building, the flushing the toilets over here that we're backing up, all of that. I don't know, did you guys get that relationship corrected?
Yes and no. As always with the school system, like with the roof, I think it took 2 years for them to finally come out and patch the leaks. They are finally done. We've had several conversations with them where, hey, can we fix this? Can we maintain this? And the response is no. We'll take care of that. And we'll win. And just kind of sit there twiddling our thumbs. They're definitely gotten a lot better at like when say we have HVAC or toilets or things of that nature backing up on responding. At one point in time last year, I would get the response of, well, I understand we've got this issue, we've got that issue, but we've got to take care of, South Mountain or Route 66 or one of the other schools, before we can get to you. You're on our list, but we have to get these ones taken care of first or something. So with that respect, we're still working with them, like, hey, at the very least, if you guys can't be here, let us fix it so we can continue with normal operations. So we're, as I say, it's constantly just back and forth working with them, just letting them know our needs and get together.
I've got a couple of questions. First one is estimate of the cost of 2 full-time employees with benefits for the library.
I will pull that one together.
You don't have that one right now. Okay.
And also the part-time staff.
And then, yeah, what's the cost of part-time staff? This other question is for you, Andrea. The children's programming that you do, story time, weekends, after schools, is that being really well attended, not well attended?
Yes, so I want to make a transition into different programming. The weekly story time is well attended. Usually in the summer months, we usually get about 45 to about 50. That includes parents and siblings. So that is a very popular program. In the off season, we usually get about 25 to 35. That includes parents. Off season meaning the winter months. The after school program, the Deer Time, was not well attended. So I've decided to do away with that programming. And focusing more on the event type things. I would like to focus on some passive programming. Passive programming meaning I set the materials out, I set the directions out, and they can walk in and they can do the activity on their own. I'd like to invest in more programming that has to do with access to a lot of cultural museums, parks, stuff like that, that people can, like the Museum Pass program. I'd like to invest in that more. The only problem is some of the museums and educational institutions will not let me purchase a pass for circulation. The biopark will not let me do that, which I'm sad about because that would be a huge one. The other thing is I would like to really get into that community assessment. I'm going to go about a more qualitative approach on how I collect information. I did attend a workshop on a different way to kind of approach that instead of pre-framing what people think about the library with a survey where they fill it out and you mark it down. What I want to do is pose a series of questions to our patrons, but really throughout Edgewood. And I was kind of getting this off the ground and then COVID hit. But basically the series of these questions will be qualitative, meaning I'm not measuring it. I just want people's feedback. And so based on people's feedback, I will be able to see in front of me what kind of things people have. So for instance, if I went to an elementary school and I said, if you had $1 million, what would you spend it on? And if a lot of the kids say, swimming pool, a pet, if a lot of kids say a pet, or if they say candy or whatever. So if the kids say pets, well then I know that means love, companionship, connection. So if I notice a lot of these overriding themes, then what I do is I plot it on I know I'm using my hands a lot, but basically I can see it in front of my face, but I plot it on a XY graph, meaning what is the most feasible and what is not the most, what kind of resources we need. So based on that plotting of those overriding themes, then I choose the programming. Okay, we can actually do that. So basically, a service response to companionship, to connection, to love. Maybe if we had unending resources and unending funding, maybe it would be, I don't know, a regular karaoke night at the library. So, but then we plot that on the graph, but then basically, where's that sweet spot on the graph that we can actually do that based on our funding and our staff? But also, that allows me to kind of reach out to other community organizations and see if we have any overlap in service responses so we can create more meaningful partnerships with other organizations in the area. So maybe what I would do is I would partner with the Cowboy Church and offer karaoke. We do it together, you know what I mean? So if there's a lot of overlap in services, we might be able to save time and money by partnering with other organizations, businesses, non-for-profits, what have you. So that's it's gonna be a long process to do the community assessment, but I think we'll have a more meaningful data other than, do you like the library spaces on a scale of 1 to 10? You know what I mean? So I'm not pre-framing their outlook. I'm actually finding out what they need, what they want. That was a long answer, sorry.
That's okay. That's fine. I was just curious if your current funding level for programming and in particular for promotion was something that you were looking at, because I know that the library is doing the take and make kits. I know that those are popular. There are a ton of other ones as well, as you know, older kids might be more interested in, oh, I don't know, little robots, all the kinds of things that you could possibly put into take and make, and having those things help promote the library. So I'm curious if that's something that you think there might be need for, or if you think you're in the right spot, sweet spot right now for what you're doing, and maybe in the future something else, or where, just to get a feel.
Sure. So in addition to that community assessment, finding out kind of what people want, I also want to try to focus a little bit more on different age segments. So right now we usually do kind of general programming that includes families, and we do programming that includes all types of abilities and interests. So I want to hone in more on like the tweens or preteens, and I want to offer some programming for adults. And I do think that there's a ton of interest in natural science and in STEM. And we do have a lot of people that are interested in art. So I think it would be really cool to curate some more take and make kits. But if it goes into complicated type STEM things, the costs are going to be high. So if we outsource it to a different company, then it's going to be probably about $15 to $20 per head. So if we self-curate the take and make kits, we usually can order the components and keep the cost low per head. So we did over 600, so like 800, almost 1,000 kits probably, because we added more on. And we kept the cost pretty low. It ended up being about $7 per kit. So that's a huge bang for your buck. But it does take a lot of time, because if we're personally curating it, we have to portion everything out. We have to put everything in the bag. We have to create the directions. We have to, I don't know anything about robots, so I literally would have to learn about robots and then put information in there. So for like for instance, I don't know anything about ornithology, but I figured it out, put together a really cool birdie pamphlet we figured out with. So there takes a lot of time and effort to curate the kit. And we usually try to find things that have been successful before in our programming. Kids love food, so we're doing an ice cream making kit. Kids love slime and stuff, so we're doing ooey gooey. They love the natural science. The STEM stuff is a little bit harder for me to do because I'm no engineer. So some things like are right over my head. So, but we figure it out. So yes, I think those would be really popular. I'm not quite sure what adults would be interested in, but I know fiber crafts are really huge. Maybe we put together a little embroidery hoop with some fabric, and they learn how to do their own embroidery project in a kit. There's other things that we could do too.
I do have a question. One of the things that I heard you say is that we figure it out, right? And so that's one of the things I really love in what you shared with us today, that you do figure it out, right? And you make things work for the community, and you take responsibility, so if something needs to be done, you do it, and you don't just say, oh, that's not my job, I'm not gonna touch it, right? So I love that about you. My question is, have you seen a lot of benefit already from Rachel being with you?
Absolutely. Rachel is absolutely wonderful. I know I'm embarrassing you right now. But Rachel requires little supervision, little direction, and she asks questions. She's very professional. She's super duper friendly with all of our patrons, and she does more than what I ask of her all the time. So she works hard, very, very hard. I'm super, super grateful for Rachel. She's like worth 3 staff. She
How
really
long
is.
have you been here, Rachel? I don't remember.
Well, I've been with the town since last August, but, I was transferred over to the library in April, and I'm really loving it.
Okay, all right. And so you're still gonna get into the groove, and you're gonna pick up speed and get relief from her as well, so that you can remain more in that management type director role, right, of operations where you have some of that relief. And I know, I actually did work at Zimmerman Library for a couple of years as the collection circulation supervisor, which is a lot of what you're talking about here, although Zimmerman is a huge library. So we had literally hundreds of patrons coming in on my shift, which was 3 to 11. And in the beginning of the shift, we kept, in addition to the supervisor, 3 people. In the later times where there weren't, hundreds of people going through, we had 2 people. And then at very evening, very late, sometimes 1. And so, and that was before the internet, sort of. I guess there was internet. But we just had a lot of traffic. And so I'm wondering too, what the traffic is like here, like how many phone calls, how many patrons come in during the day.
In a normal year, I don't have those stats for you, but it's all in my library reports on the website. So in a normal year, we usually get, oh gosh, I don't want to overestimate, but I want to say per month, we usually get about 1,200 to 1,300. That is not in the winter months. I think that's mostly in summer. But don't quote me on that because I don't have my stats in front of me. So and then we get people in spurts.
And then now with COVID, it's, happening a lot. So.
And we're never idle. So just because there people aren't coming in, doesn't mean we're not doing anything. We're not just sitting there twiddling our thumbs. We're planning on our other stuff, our administrative stuff. And I guess kind of speaking to that, I forgot to let you guys know that I did look at, I kind of talked about it, but I did look at those 30 libraries that we're talking about, the 3,000 to 10,000 legal service area mark. The average acquisitions budget for them is about 15 grand per fiscal year, and they usually had minimum 4 full-time staff, if that helps. But yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, go ahead. You mentioned that you had some water deterioration in the laboratories and everything.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, because this would affect the whole building, is the water treated for this building?
I don't know, it does have a lot of sediment in it because it comes from, what do you call it? What is that?
Their water.
The school's wells, it's the same water that's used at the middle school.
I think that's why James was thinking too, that's why the toilets don't flush how they should, is because, what do you call that, the U-bin or whatever?
Yeah,
It's like full with sediment.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's why things don't flush very well.
Well, it's probably the same thing that you have all over town. I just thought maybe we might have treated water since we're working with the school. Because it is an expense, and if it's an expense for you, it's an expense for the whole building.
And I don't know really how to solve that, like how, because obviously if it's heavier sediment, it's gonna sink to the bottom when the toilets are flushed. And then it kind of blocks things from going down.
Calcium and other minerals.
Yeah, we've had 2 non-working toilets for 3 years, and we let them know.
I have a question on the lease between, the town and the school system. How many leases are there currently between the town and the school? One lease? And in the lease, what is covered, what's not covered? Is it spelled out in detail?
So, the town is basically leasing the library side and this side, and all major mechanical, all components basically, are their responsibility. I mean, we're responsibility for cleaning and things of that nature, but everything else is the school's responsibility.
What's the response time on the lease?
I don't believe there's a response time to the lease.
Yeah, another thing
2
is,
years, you said, with toilets not working? That's pretty ridiculous. I
and
mean, in our
I'm sorry. Have you, contacted the school about, the toilets, the way that they're operating and the way that the fountains even operate, the water system itself? Have you guys contacted them and told them that you have a serious issue with this? I noticed there was a truck out this morning when I drove up from school. I don't know what they were working on.
Yeah, they still take care of the other side too, the Head Start building. was-
Right.
Yeah. And they, I think they're working on the sprinkler system.
Okay, and the water system that you guys, tie into, whether it be Wells or, Epcor, do you guys have a filtration system tied into that?
No.
It
We
comes
don't
straight
have
through?
anything.
Don't have a
It comes from their system. I don't know
How-
what their system is.
Has that ever been brought up to the school?
I haven't had a reason to. I mean,
Guess what?
it's their system, it's like, if I go down to the gas station and wanna know what they're doing.
No, this is entirely different.
Yeah.
You're renting something from them, they're supposed to maintain
We
it.
have
I know this, cause,
We have a supply of water. I mean,
but is it operable water? See, there's a difference, and that's why I asked about the lease. What's on the lease? How's it maintained? How's it covered?
Well, I think we're talking about budget right now, so.
That's
I
in the
think-
budget,
I
cause you're paying for it.
I think we're kind of getting a little bit off track, so. Do we have anything else that you're concerned about?
No, just thank you very much for your time and thanks for hearing me out.
Thank you very much.
Indeed, you do an awful lot. Well, Chief, you're next. Can we take a break? No, I don't want to take a break. I don't want to take a break.
I would like to join that break.
Oh, yeah, I guess we can take a break.
We'll start the day.
I don't know how long I talked for, but it seemed like forever.
Well.
No, you didn't need a mic.
Oh, I'm laughing in everybody's ears.
Yes, we're all back. There we go. Okay, before we get going with the police department's asks for the budget, I would like to see if we can wrap this up at noon today, and we can take up other departments at our next session. Of course, we'll bring back what we've discussed as far as costs and do some analysis on that and bring back what that budget would look like at our next one as well. But we do have to hear from several more people and several more departments, so I think we should do that. If there's no objection, I think we'll go on till noon and then we will adjourn. Do I hear any objections? Hearing no objections with that, then we will adjourn at noon. And Chief, you have the floor.
Okay, back this off, my voice carries. Councilors, Mayor Pro Tem, Mr. Torres, and Councilor Abraham, I know you're there. I handed out a budget request to the rest of the council members. I apologize. I will email that to you so you can have it in front of you. But I will go over it. I like to put things in writing so you can jot notes and ask any questions. But the first one, of course, I speak for my department, but I've also spoken to other members of the town directors, and what the first thing on my list is pay increase for employees, 5 to 7%. Again, I asked for my department, but I'm sure the rest of the town would consider the same. As far as the police department, you know, for us, as far as our salary, starting salary, we are very competitive with other agencies, our size and call volume, very much so. In most cases, we are above them. But keeping that in mind, as a department, we don't just have to compete with them, we also have to compete with the larger agencies. Being part of an area where, part of the metro area, that's something we all have to consider. Like Santa Fe County SO, Santa Fe PD, BCSO, and APD. Up to this point, and I have no reason to doubt future, but this town and the department has put together extremely qualified officers. We have a very good department. They're highly motivated, they are hard workers, and in order to keep that kind of quality officers, not just to recruit, but to keep, that's always something as a chief I have to keep in mind. And one of the largest reasons for the pay increase is the cost of living has gone up since COVID dramatically. I think we all know that. On the radio I had this morning, but the cost of school supplies alone this year is expected to go up 35%. So those of us with children and stuff like that, about to take a major hit in our personal income and paying things out to put our kids back to school. That's my first item on the list. Any questions on that before I move on? No? Okay. Next, grant writing and manager position. Since I started with the town, I did take notice that we do not have a grant writer or manager within the community searching for federal grants specifically. There's a lot of money out there because I get updates on a consistent basis of grants that are available to communities. We're talking road projects, talking water treatment plant projects. I speak for our department, for my department, but there's a lot of funds out there. I did send my administrative assistant, Nina, to grant writing school and grant management school, but unfortunately with her current duties as administrative assistant, she has very little time to not just enable to apply for one, but to manage one altogether. There's one we're waiting for to hear back from now, which pays for the cost of our vest, because they are extremely costly. One vest alone runs about anywhere from $1,300 to $1,500, depending on the size. And that's just for one. And they're only good for, at max, 5 years. they have to replace it after 5 years, the warranty runs out. So God forbid something should happen to an officer and that warranty runs out, they're no longer covered. So that being said, is like I said, I would love to see a position created for the department and or for the town to be able to tap into some of those funds to reach out and see what's out there for all of us. Not just, I mean, yes, I'm being a little selfish, but not, because I still think of the entire town as a whole, being able to reach out for some of those things. And I would love to see that happen. Again, not just for my department, but for all of our departments. Next thing on my list is I would like to increase my vehicle outfit budget to about 5%. Upon getting quotes to outfit the vehicles for the upcoming year, it increased. So I always asked why. Well, the cost of steel has gone up dramatically, along with everything and anything else due to COVID. And so it's going to cost me more to outfit these vehicles, stripe them, all that other stuff. To stripe a unit is $1,400 just to put the decals on it alone. So that's another thing that I have asked for. And then my next bullet is a $1,000 increase to my office supply budget. As most of you know, the Edgewood Police Department is an accredited law enforcement agency. If you know anything about accreditation for law enforcement, it is a highly sought after appointed by the municipality, but it also decreases our insurance on what we pay, and it's also looked upon very highly upon other law enforcement agencies, especially and also state agencies when you are applying for funds, grants, things like that. Accredited agencies tend to move towards the top of the list. And this was done prior to me getting here, and it is a very costly thing. Right now, we just ordered, Mr. Torres, wasn't it $500 to $600 worth of office supplies just to cover what we have to do? Because every SOP that we have has to be done one by one, examples of everything that we do, everything that's happened in the past 3 years. So,
Chief, real quick, any plans for full accreditation?
I don't know, George, you tell me. No, we would love to do a full accreditation, but if we move up to the full accreditation, you're talking double that cost, and the manpower would be extreme. That most agencies actually, even to our size, has somebody, and that's all they do, all day, every day, just to keep up with it, because you have to report every 3 years. And the last audit was done in, correct me if I'm wrong, 2019. So we've got 2020, 2021, and 2022, and then we'll be audited again in order to keep our accreditation. So it is a very task-oriented thing. Sergeant Lovato, thank goodness for him, he's went through it before, and he's actually done a couple audits, so we're a little bit ahead of the ball game as far as knowledge. And but that being said, that's why the increase. And then on the last bullet point for the police department is computer maintenance repair. With pretty much the largest number of computers in the entire town, it's crucial to keep up all the systems running at peak performance. Just this past week, we had to update 3 of our laptops. They have Windows 7, the new CAD system, which is, I hope everybody's glad to know, is up and running for the most part. Thank you, Jesus. As somebody mentioned earlier, he's a godsend. So, and poor kid, I've been writing him since the day I started. But anyway, those things have popped up that we have to cover costs for. And again, we have, I would guess, probably almost the largest amount of computers in the town at the police department. And that becomes costly very quickly, especially when we start ordering, or with the addition of the extra officer. Of course, we got to add an additional laptop and all the programming comes with it and everything else, so on and so forth. So that's why I'm asking for the extra $1,500. And I think that's not a very high mark for some of the things that have to be done. And Jesus, I'm sure, gets to speak on behalf of that, how quickly prices add up, very quickly. And Mayor Pro Tem, you too, how quickly prices can add up quickly when it comes to computers.
I know nothing about that.
Yeah, okay. And then, I move on to animal control. I would like to purchase a new animal control unit. We have two working ones right now. One is, almost has 100,000 miles on it. And it's starting to become costly to maintain. I do have the numbers on what it would cost. Of course, I don't have it in front of me, but I did. For the new animal control unit, run about 32,000. That's not including any decals or anything of that nature. And it would be a 2001 Ford F-150 Crew Cab XL four-wheel drive. We wouldn't have to get it with a cage because the cage is in that current animal control will just be taken from there and placed on the new one. There would be no extra cost to that. Again, that starts to become extremely costly because it's not necessarily because it's changed, but more because it's constantly used. It's, it will beat up, and then plus the mileage on it. And also for animal control, me and James and Mr. Torres have gone through this on multiple occasions. The cat cages that are at the animal control shelter, they were built using cabinets, such as in-home cabinets, where that you put your dishes and everything like that. They were converted from there.
Particle board.
Particle board, there's the word I'm looking for. Well, animals tend to urinate and things on them, and it is soaked into the wood. It is becoming unsanitary and smells. I've had my animal control officers research on several things to replace them, and the lowest price, and keeping in mind this was several months back, not putting into the cost of any changes may come to the price of steel, but the lowest price was about $14,380. That was the lowest that they found for me.
Are those stainless or are they?
They're stainless.
Yeah.
That's total, or do you need more per unit?
That would be for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 total, replacing all the cat cabinets that we have all together, because they're all made out of that particle board, and they've all got to be replaced. Again, they were a good idea at the time.
Doors too, some of those cats right can push.
Oh yeah, some of the doors are starting to give. I mean, James has done a fantastic job. He puts a Band-Aid on it, but that's what it is, it's a Band-Aid. And yeah, that's gonna open up.
That doesn't stop the urination.
No, that does not. And my animal control crew are top notch, really are. And they take care of that place very, very well. So, but you can only go so far with wooden cabinets and urinating cats.
Chief, one thing that's missing from here, and I'm not sure if you guys decided not to put it in, but at one point in time, I know you were talking about getting some sort of, I don't know what you want to call them, like a rolling cabinet type thing, storage locker for the beds in the truck.
Oh yes, that's part of the cost of the outfitting on the.
But for your existing vehicle, that's anything.
Oh yes, no, you know what? To be honest, I totally blanked that out. But yeah, what that is what Mr. Torres was referring to. You can imagine in a pickup with no trunk, storage space becomes very limited. So the guys end up shoving stuff in the back seat of their truck, and of course you've got prisoners back there also. So if they get a prisoner, you have to take everything from there and then move it to the front of their front seat and then move it back. So on these last 2 units that I purchased, I also got what they call bed boxes. And they go into the bed of the pickup, and the drawers roll out so the officers can put a lot of their equipment in there instead of, transferring everything back and forth. And for the most part, they've worked out extremely well on the 2 that I have in existence. The officers seem to like them because it helps organize them as a whole. You can keep pretty much anything you need in there. and allow room in your vehicle for your own personal space. Because believe me, the equipment adds up pretty quickly between bags for medical, bags for police, paperwork, everything else you can imagine can go in there. Usually, if you've got cars, you stick all that stuff in your trunk, but obviously pickups do not have trunks, so we've gone to this route. At one point, there were, what would you call them? Sorry, I'm having a mental block, where they would store all their stuff in the bed of the pickup.
Toolbox?
Toolbox, geez, sorry. Yes, but that didn't keep the dirt and everything else out. So everything they would put in there would, within a good windstorm, and we all, I've learned, especially this past year, how windy it gets and how much dust moves around this community, and it gets right in there. It's a nice fine dust. It does everything pretty quickly. Some of that stuff can't afford to be dusty.
So how many of these would you need to outfit the rest of the vehicles?
I would have to say 9.
And what about the per unit cost?
That's that question. I do not have that for you.
I'm gonna ask that.
But I will get that information for you.
Also, Chief, could you give them an update on the Axon cameras, the upgrade and everything you guys did this year? And I guess what are going to be the costs, the reoccurring costs that are going to come from that? I know we are that maintenance contract, and then more specifically, the storage stuff.
Well, the maintenance, we found out, I attended a meeting for new chiefs of police, and we found out that after July of 2020, the municipal league will pay to replace any new cameras we purchased. Unfortunately, the ones we purchased were before then. So any and all new cameras that we purchase, the municipal league will reimburse us for them. But that being said, that includes the camera itself, not any other equipment, just the camera. And a camera on average runs about $522 per camera.
And real quick, Chief, on that, so how many, do you have enough for all your officers now, but do you have enough spare in case one were to go down or something of that nature?
I do, right now I'm at, well, with Officer Campos still being on military, I've got the one extra, but he's due to return, we believe, late August, early September, and then we won't have any spares. But that being said, our contract is, the way the contract's written, every 2 years, the Axon has to replace with any new features that they have. All the new features this year is moved from the Axon 2, which what I have on my chest now, to the Axon 3. So they will pay for, they basically just give them to us, or take these ones from us. It's an update. But anything above what's already in the contract, we would have to purchase ourselves. But those would be covered under, like I said, once we paid for them, contact the municipal league, send them a bill, they reimburse us. But then we have a storage issue. There you go. Thank you. So Axon's a great company. Don't get me wrong before I say what I'm about to say. But when the state legislature decided to force law enforcement agencies to enact body cameras, not that I have anything against them, I think they're a fantastic tool. In everybody's rush, not just Edgewood, throughout the entire state, to purchase cameras, Axon was the largest at the time, and they could accommodate, because we had 90 days to make it happen. Axon was the only company that was that I attended. Axon owns our videos. That being said, because we use their cloud system. So should there be a time that Edgewood decides to remove itself from Axon and no longer use their product, we would have to purchase a brand new storage system, because if we do not, and I'm not saying that that's something to do now, it's just something in the future, we would have to download everything that we've downloaded up to this point, put it in a storage system, because if not, we would have to continue to pay Axon a monthly fee to house all those videos. And if we stopped, well, based off allowing us access to those videos. And it's not just an Edgewood thing, it's a whole state thing. Now, many companies have stepped up and have done different things. Agencies throughout the state have done different things, but most that went with Taxon, to include some of our larger departments in the state, are kind of stuck, with that use of word, in order to, they can't leave Axon. And like I said, Axon's a fantastic company and what they do, but my personal opinion, they kind of took advantage of law enforcement agencies in the state, in my opinion. So, and unfortunately, Edgewood was part of that, but we're a small part of that. That's just something in the future. So everybody knows that if we were to remove ourselves from Axon, that it would entail a major cost on behalf of the town. Wait.
Chief, real quick, switching gears as well. So when Officer Campos comes back, will we need to purchase additional firearms?
We are going to need to purchase additional firearms. What I was speaking to Mr. Torres about is some of our, speaking to our firearms instructors, some of our weapons are older, and don't get me wrong, they're all still functioning, they all still work. But I've been approached by members of my department, officers, who would like to transfer to a 9mm instead of a 40. There are programs out there where companies will purchase the weapons we do have in place now in lieu of cutting the cost down of purchasing new weapons. Like I said, the consensus among the department is a 9mm, a little bit smaller round, but just as effective. But that would only be for the weapon itself. The equipment that we currently carry right now, as far as holsters, magazines, holsters, and all that stuff, are transferable from a 9 to a 40. So there would be no extra cost to purchase the extra holsters, the magazine pouches, anything like that. It would just, these holsters that I'd like the one I have on now, will also carry 9mm, basically. So it would be the cost, it would be the switch over just for the 9, which would cut down on our costs as far as purchasing anything new immensely. Because usually we were thinking of the buyback program, which means gives the officers the opportunity to purchase their current weapon, and we would take that money and then help incur the cost of the new weapons. But after Mr. Torres and I looked into it, usually it's more cost effective for the company just to buy it back. And they actually give us more for that than it would the officers to purchase themselves. Because usually the price runs at $300. And the company that was looked into, there would be offering about $350. So $50 is $50 where you're at. So that's some of the things that we're moving forward. We like to head that way. Any other questions?
I don't have any questions for you, Chief. Does anyone else?
So the only thing that, with respect to police, that I'm certain of, and I have not heard anything from the league, are what the insurance costs are going to be. Now that they have the new House Bill 4, or Senate Bill, whichever one, the one that changed the liability. So it's now changed the maximum liability to $2 million per suit. And I'm not sure what that implication means for us in the self-insurance funds, and how much, if any, the law enforcement amount is going to go up. I do recall hearing from AJ, the league, in March, saying that there was going to be an increase, but I haven't heard anything since. I'm not sure what that impact is going to be in the town. But he said across the board, since it is a pooled fund with all the municipalities, we're going to see an increase. I just don't know what it is right now.
Yeah, when I went to that meeting, Municipal League was there, actually they're the ones who hosted the meeting. But there's going to be an increase, but even they don't know yet, because nobody knows until the first lawsuit happens. That's when it will all know. But at this point, everybody's blind, to include them, and nobody really knows what it's going to cost the municipalities as a whole. Everybody's just kind of bracing to see what happens.
And also just with respect to insurance in general for the town, So last year, they cut everything in half, and that was their decision. This year, I don't believe they're doing that, but at the same time, and I've checked with other municipalities, it's my understanding no one's received their policy renewal packets or anything of that nature yet, so still trying to figure out what's going on. On that end, I know the league's had a lot of turnover on their upper ranks. Randy Van Vleck just left. Kathy Hennessy, who was in charge of the insurance portion, she just left. So I know on at least with the clerks listserv, everyone's asking, hey, has anyone gotten it? When are we going to get it? Do you know when we're going to get it? So I'm not certain yet. I mean, I even sent out for the new vehicle, the roller, and stuff like that, and I've yet to get a confirmation. I know it's sent there, but I've yet to even get a confirmation that they've added to our insurance crew. So I'm not sure what's going on with the league, and I don't know what our insurance costs are going to be this year. Normally, we would send off the renewal packets end of February, beginning of March, and they would get us back kind of like a preliminary stuff for this purpose, and we haven't received anything yet. So
I have heard unofficially that it will be decreased again.
Okay.
For the town overall. They have significant reserves. So as far as, PD, I don't know, for that piece, that's probably gonna go up.
Well, that's why I think-
Legislation.
Exactly, I think, and that's why it's important that we keep that accreditation up, because doing so, like I said, it's, correct me if I'm wrong, it's 10% off of what we usually pay, or what most municipalities pay.
that's also why I was asking about the full accreditation. A bigger discount.
Yeah, it's a bigger discount,
Much bigger
You're
discount.
gonna have to give me at least more than the person for that one.
And talking about, I guess we only have a few minutes left, but, in talking about the grant writing, I know this is something that comes up every budget season, and, my first budget meeting in 2018, I remember that we added a person, I think it was Amelia at the time, for grant writing and for specifically for filling in, somebody needs to take lunch or, everyone was so spread thin that there wasn't another administrative person to do those kinds of things. And so her position very specifically was to write for grants. I had also heard that in asking for deputy clerk position, that Carla had grant writing experience. Sorry, Carla, to put you on the spot. But so each year we're hearing like, okay, grant writer. But then we fill in positions, and then I don't know what the disconnect is of why the grants aren't being written, or maybe they are, we're not getting them, or something going on administratively. So I just wanted to be honest and bring that up because it comes up every year.
I didn't know that.
No, I know you didn't know that.
But I'm
kind of talking for the group.
No, I get that. I just see, like, and I'm sure most of you do here, you see the funds out there. I mean, the feds put out, I get a list every week of federal grants are out there. And again, as, not just as the police chief, but as a member of this community, I would love to take advantage of some of those funds. I think some of the things that Chuck was talking about would help incur some of those costs where it would be, given to us from the feds instead of us trying to nickel and dime and, cut back here and there where that fund's there. And I know there's ties to it with, like, we're learning about the bridge, but I've been to other agencies where it does, to pay for a holding officer, things of that nature. Right now, I'm not asking for that because I think we're exactly where we need to be. But I just want to see the town take advantage of those opportunities out there.
Well, maybe administratively something can be shuffled around, I don't know, but we can't just keep adding and adding for a grant writer. Roger Holden did a lot of grants himself. And I know other people have as well over the years, and I'm glad to see that you're helping a little where she can.
Yeah.
But I definitely see the value in that.
I really do too.
Just bringing in But as long as it's not, too cumbersome, right, and that. Okay, my last comment, and then whoever else, I did want to see something as far as, rewarding the officers who stay with the town. So longevity. And I would really like to see some sort of program or reward for that. And I know we can't do bonuses, right, official bonuses. But I think it's important to not have turnover. And the longer that the officers stay, the more well-trained, the more that they can train others. It's just good business and good practice to retain your employees. So, I know that that's something that's common in the industry. I know it would be something that would help, the recruitment aspect and maybe the competitive advantage. So maybe give that some thought, and we can talk about it again at the next.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mr. Ring?
Ms. Almeida, I didn't hear everything you said, but were you saying that, you would favor, officer living away from the town, due to improving your, recruitment?
No, sort of a longevity pay or rewarding officers for the longer they stay with the town. Yeah.
Good. I thought you said something else. Thank you.
Okay, sure.
And we do have one starting Monday. And I have another one before you all come next Wednesday. Actually, we'll be starting with lots of weeks. We'll be on vacation, so. But, we have another one, and that will put us up to full speed. And all three, Julia and the two new hires are highly, extremely qualified. And I think we're extremely lucky to steal them from Santa Fe PD, Santa Fe County. So that's what we get. I'm not gonna.
And then the longer that they stay with the town,
Yeah,
that should
Exactly.
be rewarded, in my view.
I agree.
Well, everyone, unless anyone has anything else to add for today's, I would, move we adjourn.
I'll second.
Thank you,
All in
everyone.
favor? Aye.
Bye.
Thank you. Well, thank you, everyone. Appreciate it. We'll get some things together and we will reconvene at our next budget workshop. Thank you.